When 70-year-old Jim Hamm found his head inside the jaws of a mountain lion, he did not think he would survive. There was little he could do to fight off a wild predator who could easily crush his skull. This is one of the most extraordinary stories of how one old woman took on a mountain lion and lived to tell the tale. But first, click on the notification and subscribe to this channel. This is Fierce. Prairie Creek Redwoods State Park in California is a nature lover's paradise. The territory is rich in flora and fauna, including a thriving mountain lion population. Rangers believe there are around 4,000 to 6,000 mountain lions, also called pumas, in the wild, but spotting one is rare. Only 37 pumas were spotted by staff and tourists between 2000 and 2012. There have only been 16 puma attacks since 1860, 6 of which were fatal. The attack on Jim Hamm is the most vicious in recent times. Both Jim and Nell Hamm were avid hikers who loved exploring the natural wonders of Humboldt County. On January 24, 2007, just 2 weeks before their 50th wedding anniversary, the couple decided to go on a 10-mile hike. They loved their hikes in the Redwoods and knew most of the offbeat and secluded trails. There was never any danger. They knew it was mountain lion country, but being shy animals, pumas rarely showed themselves. It was a bright and sunny morning, and the day seemed perfect for a hike. But Jim Hamm did not feel right. He couldn't pinpoint what he felt, but nevertheless, the couple went ahead on their hike. The Humboldt County woods seemed unusually quiet, almost spooky-like. Nell was a faster walker and would always end up ahead. Fortunately, they managed to complete the hike, and Jim thought it could have been just one of those days. You get a terrible feeling, but that's it, nothing more. How wrong he was. At that very moment, he heard a gravelly sound, distinct as if something was creeping up behind him. When Jim turned around, all he saw were large open jaws, huge teeth, and 2 giant paws, claws bared, flying right at him. It was a mountain lion. Luckily, Jim was fit and had fast reflexes. He instinctively ducked, and the wildcat missed, flying past him and landing on the trail. The lion snarled again, baring its teeth at Jim, and turned around. At that moment, Jim knew a second attack would come in seconds. The puma, a female, was preparing for another lunge. He had to act and think fast. Describing the horrifying moment, Jim said, "That's when I realized I was going to have to fight this thing. I figured I would fight it like I would fight a dog attacking me." Judging by its size, Jim assumed the mountain lion to be 80 pounds at least. That isn't as large as a regular lion or a tiger, but it is a wild cat nonetheless. One sharp swipe of those paws would be enough to leave injuries that would make him bleed to death. Jim chalked out a plan in his mind. As soon as the puma attacked him again, he thrust out his hand. The wildcat grabbed it. "I was going to try and hit it in the throat with the other arm," he said. Unfortunately, it didn't work. The puma hung onto his arm and grappled him to the ground. The cat went in for the kill. Its large teeth missed his neck and sunk into his head instead. It ripped off a huge chunk of his scalp. At that moment, Jim felt a thunderclap go off in his head. It was as if someone with an iron fist had punched him. "It was like somebody hit me with a baseball bat," he said. "I was dazed." Even while Jim was knocked to the ground, he heard Nell's voice yelling, "Fight, Jim, fight." When she turned and looked back, she could not believe her eyes. Her husband struggled to stop a mountain lion from chewing on his head. "I turned around, and the lion was lying on the ground with Jim's head in its mouth," said Nell. At that very moment, something triggered in Nell. She would not panic. She would fight to save her husband. It was as if the spirit of a warrior goddess possessed her as she picked up an 8-foot tree limb and ran to Jim's aid. Summoning all her strength, she hit the puma on the head. The beast did not even flinch. Nell thrashed the puma, raining blows on its head and body. She fought like a wild woman, urging her husband to fight back. Jim, bleeding profusely, was still in control of his senses. He kept his hand in the lion's mouth. It was a huge risk he had to take. The lion could have easily chomped off his hand, but better his hand than his head. Jim pulled on the lion's tongue and shoved a finger in its nose. He pushed his hand further down, forcing the lion back. She did not let up and somehow freed herself and bit down hard on his face. Jim felt unimaginable pain, like hot iron tongs had just seared his skin. Puma attempted to move her jaws down to get at his jugular. If she did, it would have all been over. In desperation, Jim motioned to Nell to take out the pen he carried in his pocket and jam it into the lion's eye. Nell did so, but the pen broke as she poked the lion in the eye. The lion roared in pain and anger that made her only more ferocious. It kept holding on to Jim, seemingly waiting for him to bleed out. Suddenly, without thinking, Nell rammed the wooden log into the lion's head. The beast got so startled, it let go of Jim and jumped back. It took a few more steps back until it was around 8 feet away. It lowered its ears. Jim and Nell feared it was getting ready to attack again. They were too tired to fight back. This time, Nell knew it would be her and not Jim. "I knew she was going to attack," Nell said. She told Jim that instant. "She's got me, Jim. I'm next." Nell then did something that saved their lives. She raised the log over her head and screamed as loud as possible. The lion got up then and just walked away. To the Hamms, the attack seemed endless, but it was all over in 6 minutes. The couple struggled to their feet. They needed help or Jim would die. They walked up to a trailhead and waited until they found a ranger who helped them rush to the hospital. Jim Hamm underwent surgery for numerous lacerations to his head and body. His hanging lips had to be stitched back onto his face. News of the attack spread like wildfire throughout the community. It was an unprecedented one. Soon a team of game wardens embarked on a hunt for the mountain lion. They found 2 juveniles, a male and a female, at the site of the attack and shot them. One of the mountain lions still had human blood on her paws, later confirmed as the blood of Jim Hamm. It was assumed the male had watched on while the female attacked Jim. As for Jim and Nell, the couple celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary at California Pacific Medical Center in San Francisco, where Jim was admitted for further treatment. He eventually recovered, living a whole life until he died in 2019 at 82. The Hamms regularly talked to wannabe hikers about managing when coming across mountain lions. Nell was named Woman of the Year in her legislative district in 2007. When asked how it felt to be a hero, she said she did not like it. "You learn from everything in life, whether good or bad, and hopefully you become a better person because of it," she said. "I learned that life is very, very precious."